Good evening, good evening. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you love everything in college football, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this college football's rebel outpost, the home for the college football sickos. With a donation to help us keep the lights on and grow the channel, just hit that $sign, make a comment, and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome on in, everybody, into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. We are headed into week 6. And tonight we are not, well, we probably will a little bit talk about the upcoming games for week 6. But I wanted to get into the Heisman watch. You know, I did not do that last week. I did not really put out an official Heisman watch list going into week 5. Nor did I put out an official hot seat list going into week 5. Every name, everybody who has been fired thus far was on the hot seat list a week prior, if not multiple weeks prior. And we've got a new hot seat list that we are going to present to you all tonight. when it comes to the head coaches. Sam Pittman got fired. He's been on our hot seat list since week 1. So, and Mike Gundy was on there. Everybody who's been fired has been on there. We got a new list. We've also got a Heisman watch list. And I believe the Heisman watch list is starting to solidify. I don't know if we're going to see as many people rotating in and rotating out of the Heisman list. There are a couple of names that are not on tonight's list that maybe will probably pop in there and may win the Heisman. So I'm not saying that if you're not on the Heisman watch list tonight, a PATC, that you got no shot at winning the Heisman. I'm not saying that. But I do think there's starting to be a little bit of a separation. You know, I'm looking at that game. I'm looking at that Vanderbilt-Alabama game. It's the first time in their history playing against each other that they're both ranked. Both ranked going into a game, Alabama-Vanderbilt. And I'm going to give you a little peek here. I do not have Alabama's quarterback on the watch list. I got him sitting there at number 8. I got him and Carson Beck and Ruben Bain right up there, 7, 8, 9. But I do have Diego Pavia on the Heisman watch list. I had him last week on the Heisman watch list. I had him the week before on the Heisman watch list. But now I've got him number 3. And I know it sounds silly. I know it doesn't sound right. But I think he should be number 3. I think he should be number 3. So we are going to go through, in that game, that Vanderbilt game. I mean, if Vanderbilt actually wins that game, well, if they win that game, we all know that Pavia had a big reason, big deal with it. I mean, he was the reason why they won it. If Vanderbilt wins that game, Diego Pavia's legacy is cemented. If Vanderbilt wins that game, they might just make the college football playoffs. If Alabama wins that game and Simpson keeps playing like he's playing, well, he's going to pop up in the Heisman watch list. So we are going to go through the Heisman watch list. We're going to go through the hot seat. First thing I'm going to do after we go through the roll call is there was some breaking news. Let me get rid of this here. Let me get rid of, whoops. There we go. Now, I know you can't see it too well. I'm going to read it. I'm not going to read all of it. But U.S. Senator Mariah Cantwell, ranking member of the Senate Committee on the Commerce, Science, and Transportation, Cory Booker, New Jersey, Richard Blumenthal, Connecticut, introduced a Student Athlete Fairness and Enforcement SAFE Act to codify the athletes' rights and protections in law, expand revenue for all schools, support women Olympic sports, and bring in much needed stability to the college sports system. So that happened about an hour ago. Ross Dellinger and Amanda Kristovich, a lot of people in the college football reporters have been breaking it. I have read through it. And I made a comment earlier on X. Not too bad. Not too bad. The SAFE Act. You've got the Scores Act. You've got the SAFE Act. Not too bad. Not better than I thought. Again, when I go through it, I want you to give your opinions and thoughts. A lot of you are going to agree with it. A lot of you are going to agree with some of it. So some of you are going to disagree totally with it. But I got to tell you, a lot of what is in the SAFE Act can be compromised into the SCORE Act. There is a lot of commonality. Lots of commonality. There are a few things in the SAFE Act which one part of it, it's point 2 of it, we'll go through it, I believe is kind of sketchy. And point 5 of the act is a train wreck. But point 1, 2, 1, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, a lot of it works. A lot of it is the SCORE, is the SCORE Act, to be honest with you. I don't know, guys. We might, who knows? I mean, look, whatever bill they compromise, they throw together, they try to codify, this House settlement, to try to get a governing body to have to be legitimate, to protect the NIL protection rights of labor, the student athletes, give the ability of some governing body to make rules, whatever, okay? This is the attempt. You need to pass it in the House, and you need to get 60 senators to vote on it so you can vote on it, right? You need 60 senators to be able to vote on a bill and then get over 50. Basically, you need 60 votes to pass it and then have the president sign it. So you're going to need Democratic senators. And what they offered tonight, am I being naive? When I go through this, I think there's a chance. Am I being naive? Am I being a sucker for believing that they might pass something here? We're going to go through it, but a couple bullet points before we do the roll call. Number 1, the bill does call for an antitrust exemption. The moment this becomes the law, they get the antitrust exemption, the NCAA, or whatever governing body, whatever you want to call it, they get an antitrust exemption. Just like the NBA, just like the NHL, just like the NFL. It says it in this SAFE Act. That's number 1. Number 2, the governing body over college sports ain't gonna be some government-run entity. It repeals the 1961 Broadcasting Act, where these conferences can pool their media rights together, but it sounds like the conferences retain the power to make those decisions. It sounds like the conferences retain the power to have for themselves the negotiating power, not to give it up to a government entity. Now, there are a few sketchy things in there I'm going to point out. But again, I read this thing 3 different times, and I'm like, this is much better than I ever could imagine. If there cannot be a compromise between the SCORE Act and the SAFE Act, then, then the House and the Senate, bunch of morons, because these acts are not that far apart. Let me put it to you straight. This SAFE Act that is being introduced by Blumenthal and Booker and Cantwell, Democratic senators, this SAFE Act is a lot closer to the SCORE Act than it is to Cody Campbell's plan. Just to put that out there. So we are going to go through it. We're going to go through the Heisman watch list. We're going to go through the hot seat and whatever you guys want to talk about in the world of college football. Let's do it. Let's do the roll call. Don Scruggs is in the house. Jago Blue is here. What about Gunner? Gunner's, maybe number 12, number 13 on the PATC Heisman watch list. Doing better than I thought. Look, Gunner Stockton, has he gone way above Garrett Nussmeier? Absolutely. Holy smokes. There are some guys that were on the Heisman watch list, the PATC Heisman watch list in week 1, and they're probably not going to show up again. Gunner Stockton, doing good. The Walking Geek is in the house. Richard. Now, Richard, Mr. Duck, where do we got Dante Moore on the list? A couple of weeks ago, I think we had him at number 6, number 5. I think he's moved up. I think there is starting to be some separation. Things are getting solidified. Dante Moore is part of that solidification. Let's put it that way. Hummus Hero is in the house. Daniel Gygax, Esmatox, Bob Swanger, Matt Schnuck is in the house. October, here we come. The Almighty Finn, Bob Swanger, Buckshot Kid. Hello, Greg. Hello, Buckshot Kid. Son of Sarah. Luke Fickle up next. Well, he was on our hot seat list a couple of weeks ago. He's probably still on there. Probably. The Architect is in the house. John Famlor is here. You know what's ironic? It looks like Minnesota this season would have a chance to win the Big Ten West. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think Illinois is about 4 levels above Minnesota, and Nebraska might be 2 levels above Minnesota. My Gophers, you all are going to be a witness to a massacre this Saturday night on NBC Sports. Coy is in the house, but I don't want to talk about it. I do not want to talk about it. Tough Tony is here. Who else? Deadeye is in the house. My Prof. Greg the Gold is live, or is it that evil twin Bob? It is Greg the Gold. It is Greg the Gold. Thanks for asking, my Prof. Thank goodness somebody believes me. Thank goodness somebody in the PATC family believes me that it was my evil twin brother Bob who's been taking all the shots at the Buckeyes during the off season. I would never do that. I would never, ever disrespect the reigning national champions, the Ohio State Buckeyes. No, especially when the Gophers are on this. Nah, I'm not that stupid. I'm not that dumb. Come on, guys. MBM is in the house. MBM is in the house. Sean is here. James C.O. is here. Edward the Auburn Tiger is in the house. Did Tony White enhance his value as a head coach Friday? No, but it's one game. It happens to every defensive coordinator out there. We'll see what happens against Miami. I'm a believer in Tony White. Minnesota will be better than your 66-6 prediction. 43-9. Well, the Buckeyes will determine that, right? I'm trying to gauge the game on what the Buckeyes, what Ryan Day is going to want to do in that game. He's going to take Julian Sayin out after he goes 11-12. He'll probably take Bo Jackson out after he runs for 122 after 6 carries. I mean, guys, I know most of you did not watch the Rutgers-Minnesota game, but I don't want to get Tough Tony mad at me. I don't want to get any Golden Gopher fan mad at me. The Gophers are not going to be able to tackle the Buckeyes. The Buckeyes might punt one time during the game. I love my Gophers. When I'm on my deathbed, there'll be a Golden Gopher blanket covering me. Period. But I'm not going to sit here. Look, when I do my Golden Gopher propaganda, I can't even do it this week, guys. I can't do it. I love my Gophers. But there's a certain level of delusion that I can't even reach. You saw what the Buckeyes did to the Huskies? Did you see what that Curry kid guy did? Drake Lindsay. Just get out of there alive, young man. Get out of there alive and let's regroup and play Purdue the following weekend. Get out of there alive, Drake Lindsay. You're one hell of a quarterback. The Gophers have got one hell of a quarterback. Get out of the shoe alive. Get out of the shoe. That's our goal. That is our goal. Get the quarterback out alive. But I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Perch did not play much on offense against Rutgers. Okay, I know you watched it, Don. I know you watched it, and I know you know that I know that you know that I know that you know. And even Wendy knows that you know that I know that you know that she knows. We all know what's going to happen next Saturday night on NBC nationwide. All right, let's get to it. Thank you guys. Esma Talks watched it too. And Xmas Talks, come on. Your Rutgers had the game in hand. The Gophers were not going to stop you. You know that, I know that. Right? The only way that the Gophers were going to win if Rutgers just handed over the game on an unenforced error, and that's exactly what Rutgers did. They hiked the ball. The ball went in between Athan Kaliakis Manis' legs, rolled down the field on a second and all Rutgers had to do, Rutgers was going to score a touchdown or they were going to tie it, whatever. Rutgers was going to win that game, but a bad snap or Athan Kaliakis wasn't. I don't know what the hell happened. But the ball rolled another 20 yards down the field, and then Rutgers had to kick a 56-yard field goal, and they missed it. But Minnesota was unable to stop Rutgers. Rutgers got a good offense, but Minnesota was unable to stop California. The Buckeyes will hang 70 on the Gophers if Ryan Day wants to do it. But I got a feeling that Ryan Day doesn't want to do it to his friend PJ Fleck. So it ain't going to be 70. It's going to be 66-6. That is going to be the final score. That is going to be the final score. Okay. Let's get to it. That's the roll call. Thank you all for joining us. I appreciate it. Appreciate it so very much. Okay, so let's talk about it. This is the SAFE Act, SAFE Act, to codify the athletes' rights and protections into law. And again, I apologize; it's very difficult to read, but I'm going to read some of it. I'm not going to read all of it. I just want to give you the lay of the land, what it looks like. Again, this was introduced tonight by Cantwell, Blumenthal, Booker, Senate Democrats, in which whatever bill passes, you're going to need some Democratic senators to vote on it. At least 7 of them, if not more. Number 1, this is the SAFE Act. First ever national rights and protections for student athletes. Grants student athletes a new federal right to the name, image, and likeness. Replaces the patchwork of state laws with strong national NIL standard. Again, pretty much what the SCORE Act does. But it's a 10-year scholarship guarantee. For Division I schools, 5 years of post-eligibility medical coverage for sports-related injuries. So more extension of the medical coverage, right? Safety standards for heat exertion, brain injury, sickle cell, asthma, other things. NIL contract requirements that protect student athletes. Contracts must include key terms like what the athlete must do under the contract and how much they will get paid. All right, whistleblower protection. Now, number 2 is sketchy. Number 2 and number 5 are the ones that I have the most. I think a lot of people are going to, I think the Big Ten and the SEC and other people are going to have most problems with. Number 2, pooling media rights to maximize revenue. Allow colleges and universities to lawfully negotiate their media rights as a group to increase their value, just like the NFL. NBA and NHL are able to do without violating antitrust laws. The bill accomplishes this by amending the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961 to include college sports. All right. So, again, this is what Cody Campbell wants, right? Well, except that he doesn't want the colleges, the conferences, to have the power to negotiate. He wants to give that up to a government-run entity. But in this SAFE Act, it is the colleges and universities lawfully negotiate their media rights as a group. All right? I think a lot of us can get behind that. Okay. The antitrust exemption begins upon signing of the legislation. Again, antitrust exemption. It's a part of this. It's a part of the SCORE Act. It's a part of what Cody Campbell wants. There is no bill. There's nothing being introduced that doesn't give antitrust exemption to some government body, because nobody wants this government body to be sued, right? The act creates a committee within the NCAA to help maximize revenue for all schools and conferences. This is where it gets a little sketchy. A committee within the NCAA to help maximize revenue. Well, again, I think this might be a compromise within a compromise. Like, okay, the schools and the conferences, they need to have the power to negotiate their own media rights. But there might be a committee within the NCAA that might help and guide whatever. A little sketchy, but I don't think it's going to be a problem for the Big Ten, the SEC, and maybe some other conferences. Now, it charges the committee with determining fair distribution of media rights to ensure that schools can maintain scholarship in roster slots at the 2023-24 levels for women in Olympic sports. Each school shall receive more media rights revenue than they received in the 24-25 academic year. That's sketchy. It's going to charge the committee, this committee that's with the NCAA, to determine the fair distribution media rights to ensure that schools can maintain, and there's going to be more media. I mean, again, we can't pretend that we are not in a free market. Like, what if all the media companies, what if we go into a recession, a depression, a world war? We got drones flying all over the hell. We don't know where they're coming from. Russian drones, whatever. You can't just write it in the law saying everyone's going to make more money, everything's going to be fair. Again, number two, parts of number two, you've got a committee within the NCAA to help maximize. A little sketchy. New broadcast revenue to bolster Olympic and women's sports. New broadcast revenue. Schools will receive more revenue from their pooled media rights. Well, we hope. We can't guarantee that. Do you know what? Do you know how you receive more revenue for your Olympic and women's sports? Well, the conference networks did that. The ACC network did that. The Big Ten network did that. The SEC network did that. They pulled that content together and it was more valuable, bundled up, selling it on the market. But again, you're not going to be able to guarantee new broadcast revenue to bolster Olympics. Again, it has to do with the economy, the media companies, their interest in your content. It can't be just written in the law. But I get it. That for whatever reason, politically, they got to put that in there. But nothing is a guarantee. Okay, then you've got number 4, number 5. This will strengthen digital distribution rights for athletic competitions other than football, basketball. Again, there seems to be this, I don't know, a lot of hope and a lot of wishing. They think maybe they can look, there's this strong belief if you pull all these media rights together, everyone's going to make more money. Possibly. That's a possibly. But what if they don't? Okay. Number 6, cracks down on bad actor agents. Puts strong penalties into place against bad actors taking advantage of the new NIL world. The act will require agents to register with a state and certify to the NCAA they are registered before they can lawfully represent a student athlete. Good. Cap agents' fees at 5%. Wow. Prohibit agents from making fraudulent statements in their registration. Good. Prohibit agents from misrepresenting NIL deals to entice student athletes to enroll or transfer. Give athletes a private right of action to enforce their NIL rights and bring cases into court against bad actor agents. Very good, in my opinion. Number 7, bring certainty to the transfer portal. This is the SAFE Act. sets a national standard for student athlete transfers. Student athletes can transfer twice without having to sit out for a year. Okay? They can do it twice. If they transfer a third time, they're going to have to sit out a year. Student athletes can transfer without having to sit out a year if their sport is cut or materially reduced. But the big one is student athletes can transfer twice. Then the third time, they got to sit out a year. Number 8, shines light on collectives. Requires transparency for NIL deals between collectives and student athletes. Collective NIL deals must be for a valid business purpose related to the promotion or endorsement of actual goods and services, and the compensation must be at rates and terms with other individuals would be paid. So even with the Democrat senators, they understand that NIL deals must be valid. They cannot be pay for play. They cannot be for inducements. Number 8, collectives must report to the NCAA their basic business information. What sport program they arrange NIL deals for their associated schools. Again, basically this is what's happening now. Codification of the House settlement. House versus NCAA. Number 9, preserves the Grant House versus NCAA settlement 22% of the revenue share cap. The legislation does not touch the 22% revenue share cap. Other legislation would bust the settlement cap. This bill would leave it into place. The act respects the agreement between the NCAA and the student athletes regarding the revenue share cap. Provides strong enforcement. So look, a lot of that is in the SCORE Act. A lot of it. There's a few changes, right? The number one change is the transfer portal. You can transfer twice without sitting out a year. Okay? And then there is some stuff about, media rights. You got to get paid more than you did before. And a lot of that stuff, they can massage. This SAFE Act, how I read it tonight, I think it's 3 steps forward. I think a lot of this can be compromised pretty easily with the SCORE Act. I don't think the sides are all that far apart, to be honest with you. Antitrust exemption. 1961 Broadcasting Act gets repealed. The conferences of the schools will be allowed to pool their rights together. They don't have to, but they're allowed to. And it sounds like that they would be in control of the negotiations. But of course, there is this committee in the NCAA that might help whatever. Would the firing of a coach be considered reduced? That's a great question. Great question. Do colleges start eliminating nonprofit sports as a loophole? I don't think they can. Wendy Scruggs, I agree, Greg. I don't trust it for a super conference. Again, Now, look, I'm not for a super conference. But what I am for is if the schools want a super conference, then they should be allowed to create a super conference. But if the schools are not for a super conference, then there shall not be a super conference. Like, if Georgia, Wendy Scruggs, Georgia, if they're saying, well, we should have a super conference, and our voice, we believe it should be 70 teams, 60 teams. And if Georgia wants to push that, and if Georgia can get a faction, and if Georgia can create it, and if Georgia wants private equity money coming on in. Now, Georgia doesn't want any of that, but I'm just saying, if Georgia wants it, and then the Buckeyes want it, and the Wolverines want it, and then you've got TCU Horned Frogs saying yes, and this school and that school, and they all say, and they create this association freedom, right? That, like, they're free to do this, and they create a super league, then God bless them. But I'm not for a super league that is decreed by some government agency. And that is what Cody Campbell wanted. Now, I've had a lot of pushback on Twitter. And I got to tell you guys, go back to my September 18th live show if you got any questions about it. Ross Dellinger put out an article based upon information that Yahoo Sports On 3 received in regards to Cody Campbell's plans to amend the SCORE Act, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And they asked Cody Campbell about it, and he didn't refute any of it. And it was a government-run Super League. That is Cody Campbell's plan. And God bless him for having a plan. But the details are out. And a lot of people don't know his details. So there's people defending the plan, but they're saying, Greg, that's not what Cody Campbell's saying. It is absolutely what he's saying. Cody Campbell does not want the conferences to have negotiation power. He wants an agency, a government-run body. Now, a lot of people agree with that. Look at this. A lot of people agree with it. If you don't believe me, look at this. Look at this. I put up a question. If an antitrust exemption gets passed in Congress, what type of governing body do you want to see receive the exemption over college sports? A governing body with affiliation with schools and conferences, or a governing body with no affiliation towards schools and conferences? No affiliation, 67.9%. Well, now it's 61.4%. 61.4%. No affiliation, 83 votes. A lot of people love that idea. They want the government to come on in and have the power to rearrange the conferences, to negotiate on behalf of all the schools. But anyways, that is Cody Campbell's plan. That is not the Democrats' plan. It's not the Republicans' plan. It's not the Power Four conferences plan. And it is not 10 non-FBS conferences plan that just joined the Power Four conference in support and sponsor of the SCORE Act that just happened today. So let me know what you think. Am I being a sucker? Am I being naive that I believe that there might be some compromise between the two? I don't see it that far apart, to be honest. I don't. It doesn't matter what we think. It's going to come down to the two political parties agreeing. Yep. Sayin and Saban golfing with President Trump. I don't know. I do not know. Okay. Alrighty. So that's that. We had to cover it. I have been asking for an option. Options. I don't want to just be a cheerleader for the SCORE Act. I wanted more options out there. We got the Cody Campbell plan, and now we got the SAFE Act. We've got options. I like that. Let's get a compromise. Let's get it done. We need to codify the House NCAA settlement. We need to codify it. Whatever we do, we cannot allow college football, the game that we love, all the passion, all the pageantry, all the history. We cannot allow, in my humble opinion, we cannot allow college football to be controlled by a handful of lawyers with a handful of agents with a government body. Nope, we cannot have that. We cannot turn this into Major League Baseball. Okay. Hot seat. PATC hot seat watch heading in to week 6. Now again, every time there's been a head coach fired, he's been on our list the week before, and many times, a couple of weeks on our hot seat list. We've got Billy Napier, number 1, Florida. Obvious reasons. Trent Dilfer. They do not look. UAB. Trent Dilfer has lost the room. He has lost the room at UAB. Joe Moorhead, I mean, Akron is... look, it's the most difficult job in all of G5, G6. It has gone pear-shaped for Joe. He wanted to be a head coach so bad that he took this head coaching position, and it's only gotten worse for Akron. Number 4, Lance Taylor. Western Michigan. Everything has gone bad for Western Michigan. The program has collapsed. Absolutely collapsed. This is a program that PJ Fleck brought up to the very heights. But for the last 9 years, it keeps declining and declining and declining. Lance Taylor is most definitely on the hot seat watch list. Luke Fickell, I did not move him. I still think he's at number 5. He's in danger, but I don't think he's more in danger than Lance Taylor. I don't think he's more in danger than Joe Moorhead. I do not believe he's in more danger than Trent Dilfer. I don't believe he's in more danger than Billy Napier because of Wisconsin and how they do things. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But I got Luke Fickell, number 5. Mark Stoops, number 6, is the new man on the list. You know, let me answer. Let me say this. Let me say this about Mark Stoops. The biggest reason I've got him at number 6, why he finally made the list, is because of John Sumrall, the head coach of Tulane, who, by the way, is the new addition to the Arkansas Razorback Hot Board 2.0. I put it up on the title of our program tonight. Arkansas, a new addition to the Hot Board, is John Sumrall, the head coach of Tulane. Deion Sanders is not interested. So number 1 is Lashley. Number two is Summerall. And I think we've been told that Kentucky would like to get into the horse race for John Summerall. The Florida job is probably going to go somewhere else. Not to Summerall. But the Kentucky job, they can compete with Arkansas. Maybe they can get in there. Maybe Arkansas goes somewhere else. This might be the window of time to grab John Summerall. This might be Kentucky's opportunity. So I don't think Mark Stoops is going to get fired this week, next week, the following week. That is the reason why I think Mark Stoops is on the hot seat. Because of the candidacy of John Summerall, who's got so much respect out there. Okay. Got ourselves some super chat. Ryan Willie super chat, $5 holla. The conferences would go to court again to fight to keep their negotiation rights over the socialist plan. One of the reasons why I'm probably being naive, I'm probably being a sucker. One of the reasons why I'm optimistic about this SAFE Act is because the Democratic senators' plans, it almost seems like a compromise unto itself. Like they've already compromised on this plan. Like they know that nothing is going to pass if the conferences do not have power to negotiate their own media rights, for them to allow their decisions to either pool with the conferences, and if they do so in combination, negotiate with potential media partners. You could not put it in the SAFE Act that this power would go to some government entity. It would be dead on arrival. The Cody Campbell plan is dead. Absolutely dead. The Big Ten and the SEC would never allow it. In fact, I think it would, and I said it at the time, I think it would trigger DEFCON 1. And nobody wants DEFCON 1. So this is one of the reasons why I'm optimistic about the SAFE Act. It looks like a compromise already. I think people are moving closer and closer on this. I know, guys, I get it. I'm not a complete schmuck. It is almost impossible for Congress, the House, the Senate, and the Democrats, Republicans, to get together and pass anything. I know. That's why I still have not passing, the SCORE Act not passing, as a minus 4.5 point spread. In other words, not passing is a favorite, a little bit over a field goal favorite from winning the game. But the line keeps moving down. I had it at minus 5.5. Now I've got it at minus 4.5. Because I'm starting to see traction. I'm starting to see a widening coalition. Not just in Congress, not just in the House, but with the universities. We just had a report today that 10 non-FBS conferences have joined the Power 4 conferences in sponsoring the SCORE Act because they got what they wanted into the SCORE Act. People keep compromising. People keep compromising. More votes are being brought in. More voices are being brought in. And this SAFE Act by the Senate Democrats, I don't think it's that radically different than the SCORE Act. Unless I'm reading it completely wrong, I don't think I am. Let me know. Thank you, Ryan. Really appreciate it. Appreciate it so very much. Thank you for starting us off here. Ryan Willie, thank you for the $2 super chat. Fickle should be higher on the list. This is his third week he's been on the list. And I cannot get him any higher than number 5. I'm sorry, Ryan. I don't think the Badgers are going to be firing him anytime soon. I think the other guys ahead of them are more in danger. I'm sorry, Ryan, but he is on the list. He is on the list. Stoops is new. Stoops is new on the list. Yeah. Because the guys that we've had on the list, Bean, they've been fired. They've been fired. We had Sam Pittman on there. We had Mike Gundy on there. So we had Pry on there. Now Mark Stoop has made it onto the list. Number 6. He might move up. We shall see. We shall see. Government has always been involved with college sports. Of course they have. Yes, yes. But these public universities, I mean, they're making decisions, right? I mean, they make decisions on how many faculty they should hire, what research they should do. Should they promote this type of studies or that type of studies? The athletic departments decide their head coach, what they fund. All these decisions are university decisions. And then these universities go into these free associations that they were not pushed into, that they went there knowingly, had the freedom to decide yes or no. They went into these conferences. And these conferences together, schools together, make decisions. To give all that up to some government agency. Let me ask a question. Let me ask this question. To the 61.4% of the voters who want a governing body with no affiliation to the schools and conferences, none whatsoever. Let me ask this question. Who do you want that agency, that government body, who do you want them to be accountable to? Who are they accountable to? What if they screw up? What if they do not do a good job on the media rights? What if they do not do a good job on the scheduling? What if they do not do a good job on these really, really supposedly smart people deciding who plays who, what conferences is what conference, what division? What if they completely screw up? What if they're lousy at it? Who are they accountable to? Who can fire them? Who can increase their staff? Who can decrease their staff? Who is giving them direction? If they're not affiliated with the schools and conferences, who are they accountable to? You know who the NCAA was accountable to? The schools and the conferences. And that is why the NCAA, the schools and the conferences all have to pay the $2.8 billion back pay on the House versus NCAA settlement. And they're going to have to pay $20 billion or more if this doesn't get codified. But yes, government has always played somewhat of a part in college athletics. Who's accountable now? Well, what do you think the House NCAA settlement was all about? The NCAA and the schools are paying $2.8 billion in fine. Do you think if this agency screws the students that they're going to be able to sue the government agency? Come on, guys. A lot of you are putting a whole lot of faith in unnamed people running a body, making all these decisions. Who are they? Who funds them? They don't have to answer to your school. Your president has no involvement. Your athletic department has no involvement, but they're making all these decisions for your sports. That is what you really want? I don't believe it. I think a lot of people are getting caught up in all this. I don't believe it. Look, in having government run our Olympic sports, government run our Olympic sports, I got to tell you, I trust them more than the Big Ten. See, and so this is an anti-Big Ten thing. Okay. But, that's where this is coming from, the motivation. But it's a lousy idea. It's really, really bad. I got to tell you guys, I'm 57 years old. I was 12 years old in the 1980. 1980, I was 12 years old. There was about 9 or 10, 11 young men from Minnesota. They got together with about 7, 8, 9 guys from Massachusetts. College kids. They played hockey. They went up against the Russians. The Soviet Union. Not the Russians. The Soviet Union. 1980. And they beat them. They won the gold medal. A bunch of college kids. Minnesota, Massachusetts went and beat the Soviet Union, then beat Sweden and got the gold. We don't need the government to run our Olympic sports. That's not their job. We don't need government deciding. We don't need that. That is my strongly, strongly held opinion. How far do you want the government to decide? Do you want the government to decide who your head football coach is? Do you want the government to decide if your college should add lacrosse or not? Do you want your government? So you want your government to decide your university what platform their sports should be played on? What time they should play? Who they should play? How far are you willing to take this just because you hate conference A, B, C, D, school G, H, I, J, K, elemental P? Yikes. Okay, so that is the hot seat list. That's the hot seat list. Now, what about the Heisman Watch? What about the Heisman Watch? Okay, well, I went over this with a fine-tooth comb, guys. I broke down the tapes. I broke down the statistics. Let me first talk about 6, 5, and 4. Ahmed Hardy. He is he's the best running back in college football. He is the second best player right now in college football that is not a quarterback. Ahmed Hardy breaks tackles. He is a phenomenon. He's Ashton Genty. Ahmed Hardy is a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant football player. The next time you get an opportunity to see the Missouri Tigers, you go watch Ahmed Hardy. Number 5, Marcel Reed. I had him bring him down just a little bit. He came down a couple of notches. Struggled a little bit that offense against the Auburn Tigers. Marcel Reed. Again, he's number 5. But, again, I talked about 7, 8, 9. Bunch of good players there. Carson Beck, Ruben Bain. Marcel Reed, number 5. Is he going to be able to stay at number 5? Jeremiah Smith, he's slipping a little bit. He's at number 4. He's still going to be the number 1 draft pick. He's still a phenom. He's going to be the number 1 draft pick, not this next coming spring, but the following spring. But of course, he's not accumulating the stats because Ohio State, they got so many dudes. Carnell Tate, they've got so many dudes. They got the great tight end, Max Clare, and Jeremiah Smith, number 4. Now, Ty Simpson. Again, Ty Simpson I have at number 7, and I said it very early in this program. Ty Simpson is going to have an opportunity. Diego Pavia, I talked about it at the very top of the program. Ty Simpson is sitting there with Carson Beck, with Ruben Bain. But let's take a look at Diego Pavia for a moment. Maybe some people are thinking I'm over, that maybe I just want the storyline, that maybe he's not really playing at a high level. Maybe it's a fluke. Well, let's take a look at Diego Pavia, the quarterback of the Vanderbilt Commodores. He has completed 74.6% of his passes. 1,200 yards, 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 74.6% completion, and look at the yards per attempt. These numbers, 184.6 quarterback rating. These numbers are phenomenal. And then you throw in the fact that he's ran for 294 yards, 6.1 yards per rush, another couple of touchdowns running the ball. Diego Pavia as number 3 on the list. Again, it's all going to be challenged. They're playing Alabama this coming up week, but I don't think there's any. Diego Pavia's got to be top 3. The way he has produced. Now, number 2 on the list, Julian Sayin. I ain't saying, but I'm saying. Doing it a little bit different way. Buckeyes don't need to have him do as much. But again, 78.8% completion. 987 yards. 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. 189.8 quarterback rating. Again, he's thrown for about 250 yards less than Pavia and Dante Moore when we get to him. He hasn't needed to throw downfield and razzle dazzle as much. But look how efficient Julian Sayin has been in his first year as a starter in college football, for God's sakes. This is his first year as a starter, unlike Diego Pavia. Julian Sayin, number 2 on the list in our Heisman watch list. Number 1, Dante Moore. Luke Altmaier, probably sitting around 10 or 11. 10 or 11. Dante Moore is number 1. Number 1. And let's take a look at what he's done. Coming back, beating Penn State. They're up 17-3. Penn State comes up 17-17. Penn State takes the lead overtime. Dante Moore gets it together. Oregon scores in overtime, then they score in overtime number 2. They win the football game on the road. 100 completions out of 134 attempts. 74.6% completion, over 1,200 yards. 14 touchdowns. 1 interception. 183.5, and he's got the biggest win. They defeated Penn State on the road. Look at those numbers. 14 touchdowns, 1 interception, 74.6, 183.5, and again, he has ran for 122 yards, 5.1 yards per rush. My main point on the Heisman watch list, I believe tonight, as we sit here, there is a little bit of a separation. We can talk about who's 4, 5, and 6. We also can talk about 7, 8, 9, 10. Ty Simpson, Luke Altmaier, Carson Beck, Reuben Bain, Gunnar Stockton. But number 1, 2, and 3, I think right now there's a little bit of a separation. If Diego Pavia pulls out the upset, if they beat Alabama, well, he's top 3. If Julian Sayin, if he goes 11 for 12 for 240 yards and they pull him out of the Gopher game at halftime, well, Julian Sayin's going to be top 3. And Dante Moore is making throws that Dylan Gabriel could not even make last year. That's the level of quarterback play that Dante Moore is given to the Oregon Ducks. So I think there's some separation. Now, I'm not saying that Ahmad Hardy cannot make a run. I'm not saying Marcel Reed can gather himself. If Ty Simpson comes out and they blow the doors off of Vanderbilt and Ty Simpson keeps playing, keeps elevating himself, Ty Simpson's going to be in the top 6 next week, and he can make a charge to the top of the list. Carson Beck can regather himself. A defensive player like Reuben Bain, Caleb Downs. But right now, I think 1, 2, and 3 are most definitely 1, 2, and 3. I think that's what it is. 1, 2, and 3. I think that's what it is. All right, guys. I'm going to open up the phone lines here. It's a nice, easy Monday evening, September 29th. We just wanted to go to the Heisman watch list, the hot seat, in this new SAFE Act introduced a new bill by 3 Democratic senators, Cantwell, Blumenthal, and Booker. And I don't think it's all that much of a difference of the SCORE Act. SAFE Act and SCORE Act, I think there's a lot of commonality. I want to believe a compromise can be made, and we can codify the Grant House versus NCAA class action settlement. We can codify it into law. We can get an antitrust exemption. We can have a legitimate governing body that doesn't have to worry about getting sued every single day by these lawyers and agents. I believe we might be onto something, or I'm on something. Phone lines are open, 763-260-1333, 763-260-1333. Let me know what you want to talk about in college football. Let me take a moment here. Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill is carted off with a leg injury. Tyreek Hill, Dolphins star receiver, carted off with a leg injury.
Call from
AZ Buckeye.
AZ Buckeye, the floor is yours. Thanks for calling, sir. I appreciate it.
Hey, Greg. Yeah, just a question. From time to time, you talk about DEFCON 2 and DEFCON 1, and I forget what those mean. Can you go into DEFCON 1, what that looks like to you, and I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
Well, okay. I appreciate it. DEFCON 1 is the Big Ten or the Big Ten and the SEC taking their ball and going home. Taking the ball and saying that's it. Taking the ball and saying we're not going to put ourselves under the thumb of a government agency. We're not going to be told that we've got to somehow create a super league. We're not going to be told that we can't negotiate our own deals. The Southeastern Conference and the Big Ten and the Big 12 and the ACC, they've all got a lot of things in the hopper. They're all working on new sponsorship deals. They're all working on international deals. The ACC, the Big 12, and the SEC just signed an international streaming deal. All these conferences are working on having more and more football games overseas. They're all looking for their own self-interest. And they've decided on this new governing right, the 65%. If all four agree, they can pass things at 65%. And by the way, we've got comments in the comment section saying, I don't trust the SEC and the Big Ten, so I want to give the power to the government. Okay. What about this portal window? The Big Ten doesn't want it in January. They don't want it in January. Guess what? The SEC does, the Big 12 does, the ACC does, and they got enough backing, they can pass it. And the Big Ten can't stop it. That's what this governing structure is about. It's about a give and a take. It's about voting. It's about voting blocks. It's about having your ideas on what you want to happen and then try to push for it. It ain't about a government telling you, you need to have this window here, you need to do this, you need to do that. So again, for those who, I don't want the Big Ten ain't getting their way all the time. Not in this governing structure. Per the conferences and the schools that all agree to it. But back to the question, DEFCON 1 is about the SEC and the Big Ten taking their ball and going home. Doing their own thing. Doing a breakaway. I don't want that to happen. I think that would be horrible for college football and other sports, but football especially. As a football fan, because I love Big 12, I love watching ACC. I love watching SEC and the Big Ten. I love all of it. And I think a breakaway would be horrible. But if you're going to strong arm the SEC and the Big Ten into a super league, then DEFCON 1 is going to get pushed. DEFCON 1 is also about the Big Ten, the SEC breaking away, taking a whole lot, breaking away. And before they do that, of course, they expand. Now, they're going to expand anyways for reasons that I've gotten into because the Southeastern Conference really wants to expand. A lot of it has to do with the student apocalypse and pushing more international markets and a whole lot of other reasons. But DEFCON 1 is about breaking away and saying, we're not going to be tied to any of these things. Because we had agreements in place, contracts in place, but suddenly, by government decree, everything's going to be flipped. But, this SAFE Act that just came out, is a pretty good indication to me, unless I'm reading it all wrong, pretty good indication to me that the Cody Campbell plan is DOA, completely DOA. If you've got 3 Democratic senators that agree with the antitrust exemption, that agrees that the conferences should have control of their own media rights, and that House versus NCAA should be codified, and there should be NIL compensation, NIL should be true NIL, and all these other things. I'm pretty optimistic tonight, to be honest with you. But that's DEFCON 1. The SEC and the Big Ten taking their marbles and just playing on a completely different table. I think that would be horrible. I do not think it's going to happen, at least for the next 5 years. And I'm more confident that it's not going to happen because of the SAFE Act. Right? If you've got the 3 leading Democratic senators getting involved in this, and they're not willing to go that far, they're not willing to touch Cody Campbell's plan, I think we're in good shape. The Big Lubbock, what did I miss? You missed everything, Big Lubbock. You missed everything. Big Ten wants the portal in the spring, but they lost the argument. The Big Ten lost the argument. They do not want a portal. The Big Ten does not want a portal when their top teams are playing in the semifinals and the finals. They don't want that. They do not want their top teams to be handcuffed when they're playing in the semifinals and the finals. Why would anyone want the portal window during the playoffs? Well, you're going to have to ask the SEC, the Big 12, the ACC. Okay. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. Let me quickly go into
Call from
Tristan Fives.
Tristan 5. Thanks for calling. The floor is yours.
Hey, Greg. Thanks for taking my call.
You got it, buddy.
Listen, I want to make several quick statements, and I would like to invite you to jump in with commentary at any point because I respect your opinion. I didn't get to talk about this last week. I wanted to mention this. The Auburn-Oklahoma game, Greg, look, I can't hold back on that. To me, the referees, when they gave that touchdown to Oklahoma, on the play where that guy split out, he pretended he was leaving the field and he stopped at the sideline. That's corruption. That's not incompetence. It's not them not. Everyone in the stadium knows the rules. The announcers knew the rules. I knew the rules as I was watching the game at home. Everyone knew the rules.
Yeah.
The idea that the referees didn't know the rules is ridiculous. They knew the rules and chose not to throw the flag. I think this is going to have to get addressed, and we're seeing. It seems like every week now they're having to do a mea culpa in the SEC and say, "Yeah, we blew that call." Something's going to have to get corrected here, Greg. You've got people's careers are being affected by these games.
Yeah.
And I don't know that Auburn was going to win. I'm not trying to make that claim because it was a super close game and they could have still lost. But man, they had a real shot to win that game, and that was really affected by that call. The other thing is, I want to comment real quick. I got the Alabama call right. Now, I gave them too much credit, Greg. I thought they were going to win by double digits.
But you were right, though. They did win.
Yeah. And Greg, anytime they play Georgia, it just reverts back to, 4-star versus 5-star and physicality. Like, Georgia doesn't have the explosiveness to really, I don't want to say compete because all the games are close. They can compete. But when they don't have the ability, Greg, to really throw a knockout punch in the game, rattle off 14 or 21 quick points.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the lack of offensive explosiveness in Georgia is what I'm talking about with Kirby. They don't get these ultra-powerful offenses like we've seen with Nick Saban and we've seen with Ohio State last year and Clemson and LSU in years past. And, yeah, Georgia won a couple of national titles. And, Greg, like I said, they lucked into Stetson Bennett, and they had the right formula for those 2 years. But, man, it's just not working offensively. I mean, 21 points at home. And, Greg, what's the deal with these coaches who in a close, tight, hard-fought game don't want to kick a field goal? I don't get it. It's 3 points.
Yeah.
And listen, that's, you can say what if all day long. I understand that. But, man, you got to take the field goal. You got to reward the drive with points.
Yeah, these coaches are being awfully allergic to field goals and punting the ball now. It's quite the it's quite the pandemic out there. They're going for it on fourth down constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a part of the field where it makes sense.
Yep.
And I wouldn't criticize it. If you're at the 40-yard line, 35-yard line,
sure.
Okay, maybe your field goal kicker's not that good. I can understand it. But, man, when it's a chip shot and it's a close, hard game, because you got to keep that momentum going, Greg. You got to reward the offense for putting the drive together. You got to keep your momentum going. It drives me crazy to see that when they make that decision. And the other thing, too, and I got to say this, oh, man, Penn State frustrates me so much. Greg, I went back and looked, okay? I might be mistaken here, but I don't think I am. In 2014, that was James Franklin's first season with the team as head coach, okay? I went through looking for signature wins, and there just practically are zero of them. They beat Ohio State in 2016. He hasn't beaten them since, okay? They've beaten Michigan 3 times, but, Michigan was down for a little while there, and one of the times they beat them was during the COVID season, right? And so that almost doesn't count in a sense. They beat Auburn a couple of years in a row, but Auburn wasn't a great team. They're a good team. But he just doesn't have these signature wins, and now he's lost to Oregon 2 years in a row. Both games were very close and hard-fought. But, Greg, you got to win some of these games.
Yeah.
If he continues to lose these big games, do you think he'll end up on the hot seat?
I think he ends up on the hot seat if they don't make the playoffs. But I think if they make the playoffs, I don't think he's on the hot seat. I just think there's going to be a lot of disappointment, of course, because, again, in this day and age of NIL, transfer portal, smaller high school class recruitments, lower numbers, basically these top brand schools, they kind of line up for 1 year, right? And they line up and they say, okay, this is our shot. And if they don't get there, it might take another year to load up again. And looking like this has to be Penn State's year, right? This is it. This is their shot. Next year, they're going to take, at least on paper, a step back, right? Mm-hmm. So I think if they make the playoffs, I don't think he's going to be on the hot seat. Because he's had a level of success that's pretty high up there. But there's going to be frustration. Franklin might look for a new job himself, so he might get back in the SEC. Who knows? But I don't think on the hot seat. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out.
Well, I can't imagine a coach who's winning pretty much 10 games a year being on the hot seat.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked the question, because it does seem a little bit inconceivable.
Yeah.
But, man, not beating Ohio State at all except for one time this whole time. And that, let's be honest, Greg, Ohio State sets the standard for that conference, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, and I'm not even a Penn State fan. I don't have anything against them. I just want them to be competitive so that I can look forward to tuning into these games and feel like, hey, they have a real chance to win. I never have that feeling with them. It's frustrating. And listen, Greg, I'm going to reiterate this too. Man, the SEC is down again. Alabama beat Georgia. They were the highest ranked team in the SEC. LSU lost. Or maybe LSU was ranked higher, but it doesn't matter. They both lost. An Ole Miss team that doesn't look like they were as good as they were last year just beat LSU. And now, Greg, the only undefeated teams in the conference are, I think it's Ole Miss, Missouri, and Mississippi State, and Texas A&M.
Mississippi State lost, but yeah.
Oh, Mississippi State lost. Okay. So they're down to 3 now.
I think the Southeastern Conference is better this year than they were last year.
Okay.
I think they were down last year. I don't think they're down this year. I just think the top teams. I think again. I think the SEC is deeper this year. I think the world of Missouri, and Ole Miss has been woo. And Alabama is now coming on strong. I still think Georgia is a very good team. They're just a little bit of they're a big mystery to me.
But look, in that Georgia game, let me throw this stat at you. So Alabama converted on 8 straight third downs.
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
When they're building their lead. Okay.
Yeah.
That, and there was no pass rush. And this is what I'm telling you, man. The defense is a step slow this year. The secondary is kind of inexperienced. The athleticism is there, but they don't have the experience. They're sometimes in the wrong spot. This defense doesn't have it. And Gunner, he looked spectacular against Tennessee, but, man, where was he in this game? And then Frazier, reared his ugly head with these fumbles. Yeah. That was a tough fumble.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk. I think I cooled Frazier. So I'm not going to say anything about Frazier anymore.
I mean, Greg, he's an exciting runner. There's no doubt.
Yeah, but I think I screwed his career up, like I've done with Arch Manning and a whole lot of people. To be honest with you.
Oh man, that's too bad for him. Yeah, and hey, listen, one last thing. I wanted to float this idea to you.
Yep.
So if I was the SEC, and I'm sort of just looking at the lay of the land, okay, and if I wanted to expand and do it with schools and let's say that my goal was to improve the conference, but also at the same time try to keep the Big Ten out of the Southeast, right? They're not going to be able to do it. We both know it. But if that was your goal, what would you think about the idea of the SEC changing gears here, and instead of taking Clemson, they go after Georgia Tech? What do you think about that idea?
Well, taking Georgia Tech would be kind of like when the Big Ten took UCLA, right? You don't like the Big Ten took UCLA with USC. Fox did not want ESPN to have any part of the Los Angeles market. So maybe ESPN says we don't want the Big Ten on Fox to have any part of the Atlanta market. So that would be the idea on that. I happen to think that's not what the Southeastern Conference is going to do, but I guess I would not completely rule it out. But you know what? Georgia has a huge voice in the conference.
Right.
And, they're just not going to want Georgia Tech in there. So, I got to be, like, I've said this before. Florida State has hurdles that they got to get over when it comes to possibly getting an invite to the Southeastern Conference. One of the hurdles is the relationship with ESPN, but one of the biggest hurdles that doesn't really get reported on, but the doors were open to us, it was explained to us. University of Georgia does not want Florida State in the Southeastern Conference. People talk about University of Florida, Gainesville not wanting Florida State, may not want Florida State, has reason not want Florida State. University of Georgia does not want Florida State as a member. The current president of Georgia does not want Florida State as a member of the SEC. The University of Georgia's president, Moorhead, I don't know how much more I can push the envelope. I'll just say they are a no vote for Florida State. So Florida State would have to overcome Georgia. Now, my prediction, I have them doing that. I've got them involved in the big scoop, but I'm just putting that out there. But yeah, you to a larger point, I think what you're making, Tristan, is, we hear a lot of comments coming out of the Southeastern Conference that, boy, oh boy, look at that schedule. Now we're going from 8 conference games and 9 conference games. It's absolutely brutal. We're going to beat up on each other. More losses in the conference. So if you're bringing up the logical point of, look, if the Southeastern Conference is going to expand, they may be just interested in only doing the expansion in relation to other interests other than bringing on big old football brands. Like, in other words, North Carolina, Virginia, and maybe if they go +3, +4, and maybe 2 other programs, universities that aren't big football brands. I think that's what you're trying to say, right?
Yeah. Well, I was looking at it from a couple of different angles. You're obviously expressing one of the thoughts that I had, but there's a couple of different ideas that go along with it. Look, first of all, I'm going to repeat this. I've said it before. AAU status is more of a requirement in the SEC today than it is in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're really desperately trying to close the gap academic-wise. Look, Georgia Tech is a higher academic university than Clemson. Okay, it just is. And I'm not saying that Clemson is chopped liver. They're just not at the same level as Georgia Tech, and they're trying to improve. I give them credit, and they're a good academic university. They really are. But man, Georgia Tech is way up there, Greg.
Yeah,
they're in downtown Atlanta. If you got to pick a state, I'm talking about like South Carolina versus Georgia. If you got to pick a state to have 2 schools in, and you can only have it one or the other, to me it makes more sense to have it in the state of Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my thought process. You can lock down Atlanta, block out the Big Ten, maybe soften the schedule a little bit in football, but there's a whole bunch of positives there. And I just think that, Clemson appears to be going into a little bit of a down period right here, with Dabo and the way the team's performing and everything. And you never want to make realignment decisions based on current success. I understand that.
No.
But at the same time, you got to notice what a resurgent Georgia Tech can mean to the conference. I mean, you got to notice that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Georgia Tech's got a soft spot in my heart, Greg.
Yeah.
They really do.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw out all these ideas and see what you had to say about it. And I'll run along now, and I appreciate all the good work you're doing, and keep up the good work, Greg.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
All right,
Beautiful
take
call.
care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You know, you know, it's just there's so much more left of the season. There are things that are developing right now. You know, Texas A&M. Georgia can get back. Georgia's going to be a threat. Tennessee, they escaped with a road victory over Mississippi State. They might go on a little bit of a run here. Ole Miss has shocked the hell out of me doing what they're doing with the third string quarterback. There's a lot of really good things going on in the Southeastern Conference. So, and you guys know how I feel about Missouri. I think Missouri, they're going to the playoffs. They are going to the playoffs. And then the really odd thing about the Big Ten is, even though the Big Ten Conference, in my opinion, a lot of people disagree with me, I think the Big Ten is a pretty damn good conference. I think the gap has closed somewhat between the Big Ten and the SEC. And this year is incredibly odd because the Big Ten produces a lot of really good defensive players in the NFL, good offensive linemen, this and that. But they're not a conference of quarterbacks. And this year, they are a conference of quarterbacks. That has blown my mind. 57-year-old fat guy from Minnesota watching these Big Ten quarterbacks this year. It's kind of scary, really. Luke Altmaier, I mean, go down the list, man. The USC quarterback is playing at incredibly high. Oregon, we got him number one on the Heisman. The Ohio State quarterback, we got him number 2 on the Heisman. I mean, Aiden Childs, Dylan Raiola, our own Drake Lindsay. I mean, the Big Ten is absolutely loaded at quarterback. And for whatever reason, I think the Big Ten is down when it comes to like front 7 defense. So I'm kind of, I don't know. I mean, when we come into the playoffs here, you know, let's say Missouri plays Indiana. I don't know, man. That Ahmed Hardy, Prebula. Anyway, we got a lot left of the season, but it's and you know, Miami Hurricanes are sitting out there with the best combination of offensive line and defensive line in the country, with a freshman wide receiver that's just unbelievable, not to mention all the other weapons. So, Super Chat, Seminole, Kerry Gold knows college football should be socialized by the government. The SEC and the Big Ten have abused their privileges. If everything is on an even playing field, I like the nose chances. Gold knows, LOL. Kerry knows has spoken. Kerry Gold knows has spoken. College football should be socialized by the government. Thank you, Kerry Gold knows, for the super chat. Thank you for the $10 holla. I very much appreciate it. Very much appreciated. I did dress up in gold. I dressed up in gold yesterday. I went 7-6 on my Saturday picks. I'm not going to play the Greg the Cold music for the rest of the year. I'm only going to win every single week here on out. Here on out. And going back to the beginning of our show, we talked about the SAFE Act, a bill introduced by the Senate Democrats. And I think there's a lot of commonality between the SAFE Act and the SCORE Act. If you missed it, go back to the start of the show and take a look at it. This is one thing I think a lot of us would agree on. And it's the one thing in which I believe is the main reason why the SCORE Act is getting a little bit more traction and why the SAFE Act, the bill introduced by Senate Democrats, looks a lot like the SCORE Act because of this one reason. This one reason. I see a sea change going on in the college football world. NIL, not NLI. Former American Athletic Conference Commissioner, now the American, Mike Oresco. We're getting sued for nonsense. College sports is not the candy store for these lawyers. That's how they view it now. Absolutely. Absolutely. This program, PATC, we got no strings attached here. I want representation for the student athletes. I want representation for lawyers, for labor. I want them to be protected. But I also don't want to gouge and go after the owners on this, the conferences and the schools. There needs to be a compromise. It needs to get codified. We need a governing body with legitimacy. These lawyers, these agents that have dominated X with all their comments, they're keyboard warriors saying we can't have this, we can't have that, we're going to sue this, we're going to sue that. Yeah, I'm not on their side at all. They're ambulance chasers. They're just, the ambulance is college sports, and they're just chasing it along. They're suing whenever they can. They want complete and total chaos everywhere you look, and we just cannot have that. We cannot. I knew you were tongue-in-cheek, Carrie. I know. All right, guys. I appreciate you all coming on in. I appreciate the incredible generosity we received today. Ryan, Willie, and Carrie Gold knows. Thank you to you two gentlemen for giving us a donation to help us keep the lights on. Thank you for the comments. I appreciate it. I did hang up the phone because we are closing it up. So tomorrow we will start talking about week 6 football games. And it is going to be a very important week. A lot of good games, a lot of important games. We'll take a quick look at them right now before we get off the air. Now, Georgia's going to get it right, playing against Kentucky. We are going to be doing the watch party in Iowa State, Cincinnati. Can Wisconsin pull the upset at Michigan? I don't know. Illinois at Purdue, Boston College, Pittsburgh, Clemson, North Carolina, Kansas State, Baylor. Big game. Air Force, Navy, Army, UAB, Ohio, Ball State, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, UTSA at Temple, Campbell at North Carolina State, Western Michigan. We got their head coach on the hot seat at UMass. Oklahoma State at Arizona. Arizona got beat last week. Can they get off the mat? Penn State at UCLA. That's a good recovery game for Penn State. Texas at Florida. Is this the last dance for Billy Napier? And Vanderbilt at Alabama. The storylines write themselves. Boise State at Notre Dame. Virginia at Louisville. Virginia's in the top 25. Louisville is not. Well, Louisville Cardinals can take care of that. Washington at Maryland. Wow, that is an interesting game. Monroe at Northwestern. Oregon State, App State, Syracuse, SMU, Florida International, UConn. James Madison at Georgia State, Central Michigan at Akron. Eastern Michigan at Buffalo. Miami of Ohio at Northern Illinois. Kent State at Oklahoma. Michigan State at Nebraska. Matt Rule, you need to win this game. Matt Rule, you need to win this game, period. We're going to talk more about that this week. The Bobcats against Arkansas State, Coastal Carolina, Old Dominion, Texas Tech at Houston. Texas Tech at Houston, both undefeated. UNLV at Wyoming, South Alabama, Troy, Florida, Atlanta, Rice, Minnesota, at the reigning, defending national champions and the number 1 rated team in the country, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Miami, Florida State, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, Colorado, TCU, Kansas, UCF, Tulsa, Memphis, Duke, California, Nevada, and Fresno State. We'll talk about those games later this week. Stay away from Wisconsin, Michigan, Greg. Maryland, Washington at Maryland, that's a long flight. Absolutely. All right, thank you, James C. Thank you, Brother Mazzoni. Thank you, everybody, for dropping on in. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. And as always, God, family,